Wedbush's Dan Ives out with iPhone 17 pre-order predictions in a new note today. Dan is here. He is the firm's global head of technology research. Dan, good to have you with us.
Great to be here.
What are you hearing right now about demand for this phone?
Yeah, I think Air, definitely, that's been the upside. I think that's what you've seen, in terms of what I believe is going to be the pre-order activity, up probably about 5-10% year over year is what we're looking at for iPhone 17 over iPhone 16. Plus, clearly, China, that's the X variable, right? I mean, you had this little sort of dent relative to the regulatory. But I think overall, street expectations definitely are probably too conservative going into this launch. I
mean, I think the street's at 30% holds or something like that, which has got to be sort of a historic low. I mean, this is historically a stock that is well liked on the street. So do things line up, I mean, right now for just sort of that bounce in your view? I think Karen makes a great point in terms of just some of the worries here from when it comes to AI. But I think there's three things. One, New York City cab drivers bearish on Apple right now. So I think the sentiment overall is one, street's very negative, numbers going to have to come up. And I think as you have number revisions higher, that's bullish in terms of for Apple. Two, look, when it comes to AI, there's a better chance of me playing in Ryder Cup, Bethpage, September than anything happening internally at Apple. So I think now streets recognize it's going to have to come external. Looks like Google Gemini is going to be the way. And the third thing is, look, Cook's played nice in the sandbox in D.C. So in terms of the tariff sort of dance that he's done, that's been a positive. You set that all up. I think, $270 is our price target. But look, to have a $350, $400 AI will be that magic sort of wand that needs to happen.
Okay, so when is that likely to happen? Can it? It seems to me like this iteration isn't going to be the one that's going to. So does it really even matter now?
Yeah,
what happens here? You're just.
Look, I think it does matter relative to you cannot be on the outside looking at the biggest. Whatever is the fourth industrial revolution every tech company is going after. But I do think the best thing that happened to Apple was that DOJ positive for Google because that finally reignited the candlelight dinner between Sundar and Cook, probably happening soon, to double down that partnership. But what's baked in here is Street viewed this as this was going to be a 4 to 5% grower from an iPhone unit perspective. Now looking likely, we'll see how trajectory looks like, probably 7-8%. The other thing is, based on our estimates, 315 million iPhones haven't upgraded in 4+ years of 1.5 billion iPhones. So you do have a lot of pent-up demand there. And I think that speaks to probably a stock that looks like it's going to move higher over the coming weeks and months.
By the way, Dan, I think you could probably make the Ryder team with that jacket. I mean, there's no question that they're looking for some fashion flair in the golf.
I just wish I had a short game to match it.
Well, Keegan Bradley, by the way. All right, we're not talking golf. Yeah. Let's talk Apple. But when you were on a month ago, you made the sense that there was an imperative they did something very quickly. I remember you saying 6 months or they're dead in the water. And we framed it this way, but it was kind of like, is this their BlackBerry moment? And I don't know that we're any different than we were 6 months ago, but you seem more confident. And that makes sense to me because I just think that the couple things that have happened for Apple in terms of China, in terms of Trump, in terms of dynamics are enough. But has something changed for you?
It's the Google DOJ. I mean, the Google DOJ ruling, ironically, AI is ultimately what really got the win there. Yeah. That opens the lane. Now, it's not about buying Perplexity. It's not about an acquisition. Now, that is going to double down.
So you don't need to see, because, again, you needed to see something.
Because the reality was you thought that they were going to be hands tied behind their back. They couldn't ultimately do anything with Google. Now that opens it up. So you think about this good news. First, it was obviously Cook in the Beltway and Oval Office. What he's done with Trump in terms of White House and investing from an AI perspective, Kramer being there at the factory. Then you now look at the DOJ. That was a champagne moment. Then you actually have, when you look at Air and what looks like the demand trajectory here better than expected, look, combo that with sentiment that's so negative, at least institutionally speaking on Apple. I think that's a really good setup, in my opinion.
So walk us through the catalyst, and I think this gets to Karen's question. We were expecting an update to Siri early next year. I mean, are you expecting that some sort of a deal with Google would happen by then?
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay, so that's going to be the same thing.
I believe deal with Google. We're not going to have to wait till WWDC in June. A deal with Google happens before year end. I think that's something that gets announced in terms of at least the initial framework of what that deal looks like. That's the important thing because to Karen's point, there's no magic solution here that's going to be AI driven. But if the street realizes, okay, here, this is going to be an 8.5 and a 10 of a cycle relative to iPhone, but then you actually have over the next year, the real one, the one that's going to be the game changer, that's where I think sentiment really starts to change relative to the stock.
Just another question about the DOJ. So we know that relationship is allowed, but other relationships are also allowed. Do you see any other player doing a big deal, or does it feel like that pole position is so important that the next one isn't worth however many billions it would be?
I think they just need each other both so much, and the reality is that 20 billion probably goes to 30 billion or more when that re-ups, because it's going to be a much bigger deal. And then when it comes to Apple, they don't really want to be forced into a Perplexity deal, so they're going to need Google. And now look, could Google go outside? Of course. But they know that red phone hits Cupertino and Cook because they need them from an install base that's unparalleled. Even though it's not exclusive, that's more sort of, from a quote perspective, because the reality is it is semi-exclusive.